Hello, my name is Matt, but you may know me as the Tattoo Robot. Today, I've got another fantastic drawing tutorial for you. This is part of a series where I'll be illustrating 3 cocktails, each in a unique tattoo style. Traditional, neo-traditional, and my personal favorite, new school. So, sharpen those pencils, or charge up your Apple Pencil, and let's dive in. First things first, let's draw the base of our glass. A simple circle will do the trick. Now, some of you might be thinking, that's not a circle, it's an oval or an oblong. Well, you're wrong. It is a circle, it's just drawn in perspective. Now let's add the top of our glass and the sides. For this example, the top of the glass is the same size circle as the base, and 2 straight lines connect them to form a cylinder. If I erase this bottom line, it looks like a very basic non-transparent cup. But we're not stopping there. Let's push it further. If I add a half circle or even a full circle to the top to represent the lip of the cup, then add an inner circle near the bottom and connect them at the edges, we've got an interior of the glass. Now it's starting to look like something a basic cocktail might be served in. But wait, it's empty. Oh no. Time to fill it up. Another circle will represent the surface of our beverage. Let's add some ice. To draw an ice cube, I'll start with 3 simple square shapes, then I'll refine them just a little bit by rounding out the edges. But you don't have to do it this way. For a traditional tattoo style, I might keep those edges sharp and clean. Now, let's add a bunch of these cubes to the glass, erasing where they overlap, since we're not worrying about transparency right now. Let's pretend this is the glass I'll use for my project. So, I'll add some line work and maybe a straw. How do you draw a straw, you ask? Same as before. Start with a cylinder, but use smaller circles and space them farther apart. Alright, now that we know how to draw a glass, let's try out some other types of glassware using the same method. But first, I'll add a handle to this example to turn it into a mug. To do that, I'll just draw another cylinder, but this time I'm adding a couple of bends to give it that classic handle shape. Here are 3 quick examples. For champagne flute, I'll start with a circle as the base, adding a thin cylinder for the stem, then placing another circle at the top. I'll connect the top to the stem with curves that are straighter near the top, that taper down and round out at the bottom. For a hurricane glass, it's the same concept as the champagne flute, but this time the stem is made up of multiple circles at different angles to give it that unique shape. Finally, a pint glass has gentle curves that taper slightly at the center. Now that we've got all this practice under our belts, let's move on to the full project. Welcome back everyone to part 2 of the cocktail drawing tutorial series. This time we're diving into the neo-traditional style. Let's get started with the cup. As always, we're sticking with the basic rules of cocktail artwork. Start with a circle and turn that circle into a cylinder. For this piece, I'm going to be working with a rocks glass, thin walls, and a thicker weighted base. You may notice I've created a boundary to keep my artwork isolated within a specific space. This isn't something you need to do for practice, but it's a skill tattoo artists use constantly, so I felt that demonstrating it here would be important. We're often constrained by existing artwork, so it's important to adapt your designs to work within tight or oddly shaped spaces. There we go, a nice little glass. This is where I remind you this is your project. So make it your own. Add some ice cubes, a straw, maybe a sprig of mint or lavender. You could even throw in a slice of citrus. In the traditional video, I showed you how to draw a slice of lemon. This time, I'm using the same method, but I'm angling it towards the viewer because neo-traditional artwork allows for more depth. Have you thought about how to make this your own? Of course you have, because you're an artist. What colors are you planning on using? What's the base of your cocktail? Are you making something completely new or recreating your favorite drink? The possibilities are endless. For my cocktail, I'm drawing inspiration from a recent trip to Myrtle Beach, where I went to a nature preserve and watched this eastern great egret fishing near Cherry Grove. Incorporating it into my design felt like the perfect way to create a dynamic composition. If you're interested in drawing birds, I'll be breaking it down in the next set of tattoo style tutorials. For now, let's keep building this piece. To complement the egret, I'm adding a couple of decorative circles to the background, a nod to Art Nouveau an art movement from the 1890s through World War II that heavily influenced early neo-traditional tattoo artists. Let's move on to the line work, but this time, let's push our creativity a little bit. For this piece, I'll be using some colored line work. Uh-oh! Some tattooers might call that illegal, but I think it's a great way to add depth, so I'm doing it. The colored lines I'm going to add will be thinner and in turquoise, creating a contrast against the thicker black lines of the foreground. This approach helps give the piece more dimension and visual interest. If you're a tattoo artist watching this, a quick heads up, don't dive into colored line work on skin unless you're confident in your technique. Colored pigment often has a thicker density than traditional lining ink, which can lead to some undesirable results. Alright, let's color this thing in. For my cocktail, since I stayed in the Cherry Grove area of Myrtle Beach, I wanted to go with a cherry cocktail. One of my clients who lives in the area recommended the Cherry Grove Hard Lemonade, a popular drink at a local bar. For contrast, I chose tangerine and mint as my hero colors, while keeping the rest of the artwork in shades of gray. Except for the egret's beak, of course. If I were tattooing this design, I'd use neutral grays, not gray wash. I didn't go into much detail with coloring the egret because this is a cocktail tutorial. If you want to learn more about drawing birds in the 3 tattoo styles, I'll be covering that in an upcoming tutorial series. Now let's focus on this drink. I'm darkening the surface of the liquid more than what's underneath. For the section beneath the surface, I'm using darker tones along the edges to create contrast against the egret's submerged leg, and this gives the drink a transparent look, as if light shining through it. Adding the circle at the bottom of the glass creates even more depth. To make the glass stand out from the egret, I've muted the drink's color with gray for a more subdued tone. And just like the red tones, I've brushed in darker from the edges to make the center appear almost illuminated. At this point, you could consider this piece complete. But let's go a bit beyond and enhance the highlights and reflections. While this might stretch what's typically seen in neo-traditional, modern technology gives us the ability to take things to new heights compared to when the style first emerged. To make the glass appear reflective, I add highlights that follow the shape of the glass, creating the illusion of light coming from multiple sources. On the other side of the glass, I enhance these highlights with a touch of black for contrast. I then gently erase parts of the highlights to soften the shine, letting the other layers peek through. If that feels too complicated, don't worry about it. Just focus on adding highlights where you think that they belong, especially along the rim of the glass. You could even make the surface of the liquid catch a highlight, or reflect something from above, such as your garnish. Since my beverage is carbonated, I'm adding some bubbles. I keep them simple. A red circle that I fill in with a gradient, dark on top, light on bottom, with a white highlight. I only make a few of them, and then to save time, I duplicate them and place them randomly around the beverage. I drop their opacity so they won't overpower the rest of the piece. These kinds of details are for the viewers that take a closer look and appreciate the effort that goes into artwork. And there you have it, the Cherry Grove Hard Lemonade. It's a delicious cocktail and almost as fun to drink as it is to draw. How did your artwork turn out? I'd love to see your creations. Are you going to try your hand at the other styles? In the next video, I'll walk you through how I created the new school prickly pear margarita. Thanks for watching.